Now by Mark Eccleston, a film critic who met Robin Williams, didn't you, Mark? What was he like?
Well, as many people did in the junket scenario, and I think many people had the same experience, which was you didn't have to bother having any questions. He just set off at this sort of vocal gymnastics, this sort of tornado of comic brilliance. The word genius has been bandied around, and it's absolutely true. He was brilliant to interview. He was just a smashing chap and knew that you wanted something and had to go back to your editor with something, and was very generous in that sense, in a way that sometimes, you know, comedians especially aren't.
Well, not sometimes, more than very often, actually. I've been in those junket scenarios myself. Luckily, you've picked some of your favourite moments from his career. We're going to start with a funny one, because that's obviously how he started as a comedian. Here's Good Morning Vietnam now.
Let's try something. Let's play this backwards and see if it gets any better.
Look, this new Viv, Freddy is a devil. Look, this new Viv, Freddy is a devil.
Picture a man going on a journey beyond sight and sound. He's left Crete. He's entered the demilitarized zone. All right. Hey, what is this demilitarized zone? What do they mean, police action?
Sounds like a couple of cops in Brooklyn going, no, she looks pretty to me. Hey, whatever.
I bet you in that scene, Forrest Whitaker was just genuinely laughing at the performance, because this shows where his stand-up grounding had taken him to. He just ad-libbed a lot of his performance in this, and this was a breakthrough performance for him.
It was indeed. 1987, he'd previously done Popeye, which hadn't worked, which was one of his big flops. But before that, you're saying stand-up had made him this international star. And this blew everyone away, basically, directed by Barry Levinson and based on a real DJ called Adrian Kronar, but he said it was only about 40% true of his life. Clearly, he's having the time of his life here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is at peak form, and he continued with this kind of thing pretty much whenever he fancied it.
My wife said she hadn't seen it when we heard the news this morning. We were definitely going to watch it this evening when I get back. He was very versatile, not least in playing an ageing Scottish nanny in Mrs. Doubtfire. Let's have a look. Okay, the prosthetics look of age a little bit now.
Yeah.
But it was pretty groundbreaking at the time.
It was a huge family hit for him, I think $400 million at the box office. And sadly, he just signed up in April for a sequel with the same director, Christopher Columbus, after years of wrangling. We were about to see the same character, who would, of course, technically look the same age.
So many years later, though.
That's right, but the Mrs. Doubtfire character,
yes,
if you see what I mean, would be the same makeup, so that would have been just fascinating.
But also in this, he's playing the nanny because he's a dad trying to get closer to his children after a divorce. So we're already seeing this. Okay, it's a funny role, but we're seeing this sort of bit of a serious sort of seam to it, if you like.
Abandoned, slightly kind of tragic characters beginning to creep into his CV, basically.
Yeah.
And we find them getting creepy by the time we get to 2002 with things like Insomnia and 1 Hour Photo. But Mrs. Doubtfire is a cinema icon, really. And cross-dressing is generally quite unfunny, as Eddie Murphy has ably proved throughout his career. And only perhaps Tootsie and Some Like It Hot gets close to just something which is so marvellous, really. So yes, I think I will be watching that one again.
Let's go back to his just ad-libbing prowess, and none more so than in Aladdin, another classic Williams movie. It was never meant to be the case. Here he is voicing the Genie in Aladdin.
Rule number 1, I can't kill anybody.
Yeah, so don't ask.
Rule number 2, I can't make anybody fall in love with anybody else. Mwah! You little punum there. Rule number 3,
I can't bring people back from the dead. It's not a pretty picture. I don't like doing it.
other than that, you got it.
We said he was never meant to be the star, because only meant to be a few lines he did in this film, and he said he spent 22 hours just ad-libbing the whole lot.
And crazy stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, he tried to sue Disney because he thought he'd been over-marketed in a film that he'd only got about $75,000 and had done as a favour for Good Morning Vietnam, which was another of Disney's pictures. And here he just, he is the movie again. I mean, you will not be able to remember who played Aladdin or who played any of the other characters, will you?
I do know
But
what it also meant, because he
Yeah.
ad-libbed so much, they couldn't enter the screenplay for any awards because he just busts the whole thing, which is phenomenal.
Exactly. Normally they have people kind of working to animation with their voiceover. Here it was completely in reverse, and he showed that you need stars to sell animation. That became a big trend because of that movie.
Undoubtedly, he was a star. Thank you very much indeed,
Thank you.
Mark.